Article 163 Fact Canon 2485 A fact is a form referring to valid information about past or present events, attributes or actions which is provable in reality. Canon 2486 as valid reality and truth are defined by these canons. A fact is not a fact but a false assertion or fraud if it does not conform to these canons. Canon 2487 When anyone references, writes or speaks of a fact, true fact, or absolute fact it shall mean these canons and no other. Article 164 Methodology Canon 2488 Method of fact is the approach by which a fact may be discovered, prepared, obtained through the proper measurement in the pursuit of knowledge and investigation. Canon 2489 The word methodology originates from the ancient Greek word, methodos, meaning pursuit of knowledge, investigation and the mode and system of prosecuting such inquiry. Canon 2490 A methodology for the pursuit and discovery of facts is valid only when its elements are in accordance with these canons. Canon 2491 A claimed fact obtained through a methodology not consistent with these canons is itself invalid. Article 165 Source Canon 2492 Source of fact is the primary person, place, thing from which a fact has come or is acquired. Canon 2493 When the source of a claimed fact is obtained through documentation, it may be classed as a source text and such information must be referred by citation. Canon 2494 There are three forms of source text being primary, secondary and tertiary. A primary source text is first-hand written evidence and testimony made at the time of the events by an actor or witness to such events and whereby the provenance of such evidence is verifiable, and 2. A secondary source text is written accounts of history based upon primary source texts or a claimed reprint or approximate reproduction of an alleged primary source text in which no primary source text exists, and 3. A tertiary source text is any compilation of secondary sources and excerpts from primary source texts. Canon 2495 A source text cannot be considered to be a primary source text if the text is a claimed reprint or approximate reproduction, or the text is derived from an extract of a secondary source text to imply the existence of a primary source but the original is missing. Canon 2496 A source text cannot be considered to be a secondary source text if the text is a claimed reprint or approximate reproduction, or the text is derived from an extract of a tertiary source text to imply the existence of a secondary source but the original is missing. Canon 2497 A claimed fact derived from a valid primary source text shall always have higher standing than a claimed fact derived from a secondary source text. Similarly, a claimed fact derived from a valid secondary source text shall always have higher standing than a claimed fact derived from a tertiary source text. Canon 2498 As the Roman cult, also known as the Vatican, also falsely known as the Holy See did in part admit to its actions in Ecclesiae Christi, July 28, 1591, to the deliberate creation of false and fraudulent source texts including the destruction of countless true original source texts and the absurdity that such false and fraudulent documents are legally permitted to be argued as true and correct. All source texts originating from the Roman cult, including all historic legal texts used by the cult to claim their authority and position are hereby null and void from the beginning when they were first issued. Canon 2499 No source text deemed a fraud in part or whole, in accordance with these canons may be used as a valid source text in law. Article 166 Reference Canon 2500 A reference is an abbreviated identification of another document source within a body of text including a complete and formal identification at the end of the text. A valid reference is known as a citation. Canon 2501 A valid citation is any reference that conforms in form to the requirements prescribed by these canons in accordance with Pactum de Singularis Caelum. Canon 2502 A reference is not a valid citation but an inferior reference. having no validity if it does not conform to the requirements prescribed by these canons. Canon 2503. There is no higher form of authority of valid citation than these canons. When anyone references, writes or speaks of citation, valid citation, or highest authority citation, it shall mean these canons and no other. Canon 2504. Excluding the sacred covenants, charters, scripture, codes and canons of Eucadia and One Heaven, no text of historic significance, or of more than 20 words that represents an exact likeness of an earlier source may be included within a more recent text without valid citation. Failure to provide valid citation is an offense known as plagiarism. Canon 2505. All valid citations comprise three elements: an inserted abbreviated reference within the body of some text known as a cito, a more formal and complete reference at the end of a page, chapter or division of the document known as a profero, and a comprehensive summary of all sources as an appendix to the document known as a summarum. Canon 2506. When considering the three elements of any valid citation, an author may choose one of two valid systems of citation to use throughout their work: notational citation and parenthetical citation. Only one system may be used throughout a whole document. Canon 2507. Notational citation is a system of valid citation whereby the use of cito within the body of text is as superscript sequential numbers, corresponding to a correspondingly numbered profero at the bottom of each page or at the end of the chapter or division, and then the summarum at the end of the document. Canon 2508. Parenthetical citation is a system of valid citation whereby the use of cito within the body of text is through short abbreviated text within correct brackets or parenthesis, corresponding to alphabetically or time-arranged profero at the end of the chapter or division, and then the summarum at the end of the document. Canon 2509. When using parenthetical citation, all references to inferior Roman law, Sharia law or Talmudic law sources must be in square brackets denoting their inferior status, with any other source permitted to use rounded brackets. Canon 2510. When referencing a valid canon of these canons as a cito, the word canon followed by the appropriate number is sufficient, or the abbreviation can, and then number is appropriate. Canon 2511. Any document that uses the word canon or abbreviation can to specifically denote some false and inferior canon as a cito and does not isolate such a reference in square brackets is itself automatically null and void from the beginning. Article 167. Verification. Canon 2512. Verification is the substantiation or proof of an assumption such that the assumption may be regarded as true and therefore fact. Canon 2513. A fact may be regarded as verified when the substance of it has been compared to these canons and found to be in accordance. Canon 2514 is the Roman cult, also known as the Vatican, also falsely known as the Holy See, has been proven to be habitual historic purveyors of forgeries, frauds and misinformation. Nothing stated, presented as proof by them or their agents may be taken as verification of fact or truth.